Today, I'm going to be talking all about aging healthily. Okay, and so this is a bit of a favourite topic of mine. As you know, I'm a chiropractor, or as you may know, I'm a chiropractor here at Healthy Choices Chiropractic in St Agnes in South Australia. And we do lower force techniques. So I specialise in doing sacro-occipital technique and activated methods chiropractic. And as a result, we do see we see a wide range of people. We see the whole spectrum in terms of ages. So we see a lot of pregnant mums, we see a lot of kids, and we see a lot of elderly, young at heart. And so we see people right across that spectrum. And sometimes that is because they prefer the gentler techniques we do, and that's great. And so we do have an opportunity to talk to them a lot about aging. And one of the conversations that happens a lot in the practice is, especially when people first come in to see me, is they'll say, I've got this problem, I've got that problem, I've got that problem, but I'm getting old, so that's to be expected. And so there's this kind of societal expectation that everything falling apart as you age is totally normal. And often that is propagated by healthcare practitioners as well. And so often I find when healthcare practitioners aren't able to adequately analyse and sort of distinguish what's going on with someone, or they don't have adequate solutions in order to resolve that, then their solution tends to be just put it down to age. It's just age, there's nothing you can do about it, so just go away and wait till it gets bad enough that it requires drugs or surgery, and then we'll look at doing something about it, right? And so first of all, I think that's not true. And second of all, I think there's a better way of doing things, okay? And so the reason I say that's not true is that, often what we're looking at is, certain segments of someone's spine, or perhaps the rest of their body, might be their knees, their shoulders, their hips, whatever it may be, that are wearing out quicker than the rest of their body. And so this is one of the things I look for when I'm talking to people about whether it's aging or whether it is in fact dysfunction over time that's leading to their problem. And the thing I teach people to look for is asymmetry. Okay, asymmetry in the way that your body is wearing and tearing, the way that your body is quote unquote aging. Okay, because what we often see is we'll people come to see me in the practice, and often we'll take an X-ray initially in order to examine them and to see really exactly what's going on. And often we'll look at those X-rays and we'll see some joints in their spine that are really wearing out. There's a loss of disc height there, there's spurring, there's wear and tear, degeneration going on, and it can look quite advanced at times. But often you don't have to look far. You can look one or two segments higher in their spine, and what you see is a nice healthy disc space. What you see is a lot less spurring, a lot more regular end plates, a lot healthier joint and a lot healthier spine, essentially. Okay, and so when I see that and I look at these people and I ask them the question, I simply say to them, okay, is this age? And they say, yeah, this is age. I'm just getting old. That's to be expected. I say, okay, well, does that make sense? I say, look at this. How old's this joint? How old's that joint, right? And they always look at me and they kind of giggle and they laugh and they say, well, yeah, they're the same age. Okay. I say, well, does it make sense then? Does it make sense that the difference between the two is age? Or might it be the case that one of these joints isn't functioning very well, hasn't been functioning very well for some time, and as a result is wearing out quicker than it should be? And usually they look at me and say, yeah, that kind of makes sense. And I say, well, look, what would be the solution to that then, right? And what we ultimately come to is to say, well, look, the best solution is prevention, right? The best solution would have been to 5, 10, 20 years ago, start working on the function of that joint so that it didn't wear and tear as it has, and so that it could have stayed healthy like the 1-2 segments above it, right? So that's the best solution. Now, obviously, we've gone past that point usually by the time we're having this conversation, and so then we start to go, well, then what's the next best solution, right? And the next best solution is, well, let's get that joint functioning as well as it can be so that it doesn't continue to wear and tear at an accelerated rate, so that it doesn't wear out to the point that it starts putting pressure on the joints above and below and causing them to wear out as well, and so that it can potentially, at the very least, slow the rate at which it's aging, perhaps stop the rate at which it's, well, I shouldn't say aging, because it's always going to keep aging, but slow the rate at which it's deteriorating, and possibly even allow for it to heal and head back in the other direction to a degree, okay? And so what we need to understand is there's a difference between normal aging and accelerated aging. And what we've just talked about is accelerated aging. Right? When we look at that joint that's 2 or 3 segments above that looks otherwise much healthier by comparison, it's still aging, right? Like it's still wearing out over time, just in a much slower, more graceful way, right? So what I'm saying is I don't expect that joint to still look like it did when it was 21, right? It does age. There is such a thing as normal aging and normal wear and tear. But as I said, it's a lot slower and a lot more graceful than what we've been led to believe. And the key, as I keep saying, to look for is asymmetry. When it's happening at an asymmetrical rate, then we should be looking at that thinking, okay, there's more to this than aging. There's a functional issue here. And what can we do to improve the function of our body so that it ages in a healthier way? And that's really what I'm going to be talking about tonight. Okay, so I've got a whole bunch of points here that I want to get into and get through. And so we're going to just talk through ways that we can look after the function of our body. And so the first of these is really posture. Our posture is a classic sign we look for in terms of aging. And subconsciously, we even use it as a determinant of how old someone is. When we see someone with a more slumped posture, we have a tendency to think of them as being older than someone who is naturally more upright, right? Because it's a sign of health, it's a sign of youth, it's a sign of vibrancy, okay? And when your posture is out, it can have a massive impact on the function of your entire body. Not just biomechanically, because it can, obviously affect the way your muscles, the way your ligaments, the way your joints, the way all of your peripheral joints work, because they can all be distorted by that posture. But also because obviously your spine houses your nervous system, which controls and regulates every cell, tissue, and organ in your body. And so if that nervous system isn't functioning as well as it should be, then that can have a huge raft of effects right throughout your body. Okay, so we obviously talk a lot in our chiropractic practice at Healthy Choices Chiropractic about posture, because that's really important. And obviously, one of the things you should do if you're concerned about your posture is get a checkup from a chiropractor to see whether some of those joints are dysfunctional and whether that's contributing to that poor posture, and that is often and likely the case. Okay, so getting a checkup by a chiropractor is a good idea. Being mindful of your posture, right? There are videos inside my Healthy Lifestyle Choices group about how to set up your desk. There are videos in there about how to set up your car. There are videos in there about exercises for good posture, and videos in there about foam rolling for good posture. Okay, and so these can all be tools in your toolkit in order to maintain your posture, but also in order to rehabilitate your posture. And so there's obviously things we can do chiropractically, and I've been looking into some really interesting ones of late and adding them into the practice as well, with some really cool and interesting results. But obviously there's stuff you can do when you're not here that really help as well. And so I encourage you to have a look into those videos in order to see what other stuff, if that's something you're interested in order to be able to see what other stuff you might be able to do in order to maintain your posture. Okay, so if you're not in that Healthy Lifestyle Choices group yet, then I encourage you to check it out on Facebook, and it's just Healthy Lifestyle Choices with Brett Hill. There's a couple of questions you need to answer, and you request access and we let you in. And it's a great place to find all of these videos, as well as a whole bunch of other videos. The new videos we put up each month go into there, and it's the best spot to ask me questions if you've got specific questions you want to ask. So I encourage you to get on board there. And so as I said, those videos do talk about foam rolling for good posture. They do talk about exercise for good posture. And when it comes to exercise for good posture, I'm a big fan of whole body exercise. And this is not just exercising for good posture, but I think this is important in terms of exercising for healthy aging as well, because that's really the topic of what we're going to talk about tonight. But the best way to exercise your body in a way that is going to allow it to to age in a natural way is to do it with really good posture. Okay, because the better aligned you can keep your body as you exercise, the less likely you are to be putting undue stress on your joints, on your muscles, on your ligaments, that are then going to cause problems as you age. It's that repetitive micro trauma, and one of those repetitive micro traumas is definitely your posture, where if you are moving and exercising with poor posture, that's putting excessive stress on your spine and your nervous system, and once again, your muscles, your joints, your ligaments, that is going to cause them to age quicker than they should. So it's really important that whatever exercise you're doing, that you're doing it with really good posture. And so that means that if you're doing a squat, that you're keeping that nice straight line between your ears, between your shoulders, and between your hips. You're hinging at the hips, but otherwise keeping your back nice and straight and keeping things in really good alignment, because that's going to allow you to protect your body and to not unnecessarily stress it and not unnecessarily age it. Okay. Resistance exercise is really great as you age. It's really important for to maintain your lean muscle mass, which we know has a huge array of effects, including maintaining your healthy metabolism, including having hormonal effects on your body, including helping you maintain a healthy weight. So maintaining a lean muscle mass is really important. Resistance exercise really helps with that. We also know that resistance exercise is potentially more important than diet when it comes to maintaining your bone density. All right, so your body responds to that stress that you put onto the bones with resistance exercise, that what we would call eustress or beneficial stress that goes onto your bones as a result of resistance exercise, and it responds to that by strengthening your bones. So resistance exercise is the best way to keep your bones strong and healthy as you age, which is obviously really important as well. Maintaining your mobility as you age is very important as well. We obviously see a lot of people lose that mobility. It is very much a case of use it or lose it. It's important that we keep looking after our mobility as we age. We maintain the ability to squat or even just to sit and stand back up again. That we maintain the ability to even walk for as long as we can. I think we need to be really careful that we're not introducing people into walking aids and things like that sooner than we have to. It's very easy often when there is an injury or an insult or something that we turn to those aids. But I think as much as possible, we want to rehabilitate back away from those as well, so that we can maintain that mobility, because what we see is that they can be quite detrimental in terms of people's mobility, and definitely in terms of people's posture. We see those walking frames that once you get into that hunched forward position, that can really accelerate the forward carriage and the forward posture that happens as a result of that. So, as much as possible, we want to try and maintain that ability and that mobility to do our activities of daily living. To be able to squat down and pick something up off the floor, to be able to sit on the toilet and get back up again, to be able to shower ourselves, to be able to change ourselves. The more we can maintain our mobility, and the earlier we focus on not losing our mobility, then the better we're going to do in that regard later in life. And I think there are enough great examples out there of people who have maintained great movement and great mobility well into their elderly life, for us to start looking at it and thinking, well, hey, rather than looking at what's common in our society, which is lots and lots of people who are losing that mobility, perhaps we need to start looking at what is less common but perhaps more normal, and that is these populations of people and individual people who are maintaining that mobility. And what do they do differently? If we look at the Icarians in Greece, and their ability to keep dancing, their ability to keep walking up and down hilly slopes to tend to their garden, and all of those things that they just naturally do as part of their life, that's a big part of them having the highest number of centenarians, people who live to 100 of anywhere in the world, or at least equal of, a couple of other places like Sardinia and Okinawa and places like that, right? So one of the common themes amongst these, what they call the blue zones, these places where people do live to 100, is that they maintain movement, and not necessarily exercise, but just movement in their life. And I think a big part of that is maintaining that mobility, that ability to squat, that ability to dance, that ability to, bend over and pick things up, all of that, a walk, So I think it is important that we're conscious of maintaining our mobility as we age. Once again, I think that really is a sign of youth. And sometimes it's easy to ignore in the early stages when you're maybe my age, in your 40s, and things start to go, and I see this with so many of my mates and people who I've played sport with over the years and all those sort of things, acquaintances, that they're getting to their 40s and they're getting to their 50s and they're just kind of accepting a loss of mobility, because it doesn't necessarily impact their lives a lot yet. Right? But I think that's a really slippery slope, that if you start to lose it in your 40s and 50s, then by the time you get to your 60s and your 70s and your 80s, and that has continued along that path, then it's a much harder thing to reverse and to get back. So I do think an important part of this is start to think about it sooner rather than later. Um, and I think a part of that is our ability to stay playful. I think playfulness and curiosity are two things I often talk about and think about in regards to aging. And I think to a large degree, our ability to age well is related to our ability to remain playful and our ability to remain curious. And so I think in terms of not just our physical body, but in terms of our mind especially, our ability to remain playful and to remain curious play a massive role in our ability to stay young and to keep learning new things and to keep challenging our body and keep challenging our mind in new and varied ways, which I think is a really key ingredient in order to age healthily. Okay, and so this can be in the form of sport. Like I still play indoor cricket on Wednesday night with my mates. We have a team we started in 1999, so we're 24 years in playing indoor cricket together. And so I think that the sport aspect of that is really important in terms of maintaining our physicality, maintaining our movement, maintaining our mobility, maintaining our reflexes. And obviously the social aspect of that I think is really important as well. That's another thing we see as being really important for those who age well. Once again, in those blue zones, they do socialize, they sing together, they dance together, they have lots of social activity. They sit down and eat meals together, shockingly without mobile phones and without the TV on and those sort of things, right? They sit down and have meals and conversations together. And so I think that social aspect of remaining sort of playful and curious is really important too. But I think sport can be really good. Obviously, a variety of movement and activities of daily living. Once again, those blue zones, they don't necessarily do a lot of exercise, but what they do is activities of daily living. They go and cart food and cart water and walk around places and tend to their gardens and dance and all of those sort of things. And so I think that's really important, that we maintain those activities of daily living that can be quite playful and can be quite curious and varied, probably is the word I'm looking for there. That ability to have a variety of different movements and a variety of different stimulus, once again, for your body and also for your brain, is a really important part of aging well. Then I think we can have a look at healthy eating habits. Obviously can be a really important part of aging well. It's interesting. I know for my good friends Marcus and Damien, who do the 100 Not Out podcast, and they do retreats to Ikaria and now Sardinia, to those blue zones with people, and they really investigate what they do to age well. And I know for them, they've discovered over their time there, they expected food to be the biggest, the number one. Damien's a naturopath and a nutritionist as well as a chiropractor, and I know he expected that food would be the number one thing that made a difference in terms of people aging well. And I know over time he's been surprised to see that probably the two most important things have actually been movement and have been socializing. Okay, so bear that in mind as we go through this next section. But I do think, if we look at healthy foods for our bones, that's obviously really important as we age. What we see is a lot of degeneration in the bones and shifts in the posture as a result of deterioration of the bones, and osteoporosis and fractures of the hips can be devastating for people as they're aging. So, getting lots of calcium with your dark leafy green vegetables and your seafood is really important for the strength of your bones. Getting things like bone broth, so that you're getting, and organ meats, so that you're getting magnesium and collagen that can be really important for that, once again, for your bones. Healthy fats and vitamin D are really important. So healthy fats being the precursors to vitamin D, understanding that most of your vitamin D is produced in your body rather than consumed by your body. And so making sure you're getting enough healthy fats makes it easier for your body to do that. And obviously sunshine as well makes it easier for your body to do that. Once again, something I think that those centenarians in those blue zones probably get a lot of. They have very nice, natural, outdoorsy kind of lifestyles where they get some sun, which is great. Being mindful of those things that can be beneficial for your joints, like collagen and glucosamine. Collagen, the great way to get that is from bone broth. All right, and so bone broth is just a wonderful nutrient, I think, for someone, if you want to age well. I think that's a great thing to add into your diet because of the collagen that exists in it. Shellfish could be great for getting you glucosamine, which many people take as a supplement, but can also be received from consuming shellfish. Oysters and red meat to get enough zinc can be really important for your bones as well. For your muscles, you want to have lots of healthy fats. Avocado, coconut oil, eggs, which help with your testosterone. Which they are the fats are the precursors to those steroid hormones, which are once again really important as you age. I want to say especially for men, but it's probably not true. It's probably really important for both, I would suggest. Getting lots of eggs, which can get you linoleic acid or CLA, which is really important for maintaining healthy muscles as well. Getting enough protein in your diet, once again, very important as you age. And once again, those healthy fats, not just for your muscles, but also for your brain. As you age, you want to make sure you retain that brain function. And so understanding that your brain is predominantly fats, and that if you have a look at MRIs of people's brains who don't consume enough fats and enough vitamins like vitamin B12, which come from animal foods, then you can actually see physical shrinkage of the brain, often quite substantially. And obviously deterioration of brain function goes hand in hand with that. So it's really important that you do get those nutrients, not just for your muscles, but for your brain as well. And those fats are really important. And then, anti-inflammatory foods. I think for many people as they age, inflammatory disorders can be a really big problem and a big issue. As we get older, our ability to deal with that. Well, I don't know if it's as we get older, I'm sure our ability to deal with that decreases to a small degree. And as we dysfunction over time, I think our ability to deal with that decreases even more. And so many people as they age start to see problems with inflammatory disorders. And so, eating low inflammatory foods, keeping your blood sugar, not having too much sugar can be really important for maintaining your anti-inflammatory, not letting your body get too inflamed. Pre and probiotics can be really important. Fish and grass-fed meats can provide important omega-3s, which are really anti-inflammatory in your body as well. As I said, getting your B vitamins, so meat and organ meats can be really important for your B vitamins, which are great anti-inflammatory for your body. And once again, as I said before, particularly B12, really important for your brain function as you age. And that EPA and DHA, especially those omega-3s, really important for your brain function as well. Not just as you age, all the time, but especially as you age, you want to be making sure you're getting that in. I do worry sometimes we have cholesterol lowering drugs and what effect they may be having on our brain function when our brain is so reliant on these really healthy fats. And so we need to be mindful of that and make sure we're having good chats with our health professionals about that. Red meat, getting enough iron, really important for your nervous system and for your brain. Magnesium is really good for de-stressing your brain and your nervous system. So dark leafy greens, nuts, avocados, great sources of that magnesium. And selenium helps to reduce oxidative stress. And so that's in nuts and mushrooms and seafood, right? So these real natural, healthy, whole foods. And a variety of those natural, healthy, whole foods are really important for our bodies as we age. And I think especially some of those animal products, those healthy meats, those proteins, the EPA, the DHA, those omega-3s, the zinc, there's a lot of great reasons to keep consuming those as we age. And I think they're really important for the aging process in our body. Quitting smoking is another thing that you want to be mindful of. Smoking, if you know a smoker, you know that smoking ages people, and it ages people visibly in terms of wrinkles and those sort of things, teeth, all those sort of things. But it ages people on the inside as well. We know that smoking is really dehydrating for the discs in your spine, and so really, if you can quit smoking or at the very least reduce smoking. I'm not sure that vaping is any better than smoking. In fact, given the amount of chemicals that are in it, it may in fact be worse, but time will tell on that when the research comes out. I certainly can't say that definitively yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if down the track we're talking about vaping being even worse than smoking. So if you want to quit, the research tends to suggest that the best way to do it is just to go cold turkey. Not using the patches or the gums or the vapes or anything like that, but actually to go cold turkey. If any of those things work for you, great. But if you're not sure, you might be better off just trying going cold turkey first, because that's probably the healthiest option for your body. Okay. Obviously, managing stress as you age can be really important. We know that stress ages people, right? Once again, someone who's gone through a lot of stress, and all of a sudden they start to get a few grey hairs and a few extra wrinkles, and once again that outward visible aging is often a reflection of some inward aging as well. And so if we can have ways to minimize stress and stress, emotional, physical, chemical, emotional stress we always talk about, but in this case, stress, particularly emotional stress, okay? And so having some tools to help with that, like mindfulness, like meditation, like relaxation, whatever relaxation looks like to you, whether that's fishing, reading a book, dancing, camping, yoga, meditation, whatever that looks like for you. And gratitude. Gratitude can be a really easy way to add some positive thoughts into your life and help reduce some of the negative thoughts into your life. So gratitude can be a great way to go about doing that. As we mentioned, hydration is really important as you age, and especially for your spine. I mean, really, hydration is important for just about every process that goes on in your body. Hydration is important for, but especially for your spine. We know that those discs in our spine are really fluid-filled, cartilaginous sacs. I actually, as part of my job as a lecturer for the chiropractic students, we were actually looking at this in a little video just the other day in one of our lectures. And even I was surprised at just how fluid those discs are. The middle of those discs really is liquid, it's a really liquid sac there, and obviously surrounded by some collagen. And so it's really important that we keep our hydration up to maintain that shock absorbency in our spine, to maintain that absorption of force that those discs are designed to create, to maintain that space that is designed to be there for our nervous system, for the messages going from our brain to our body, that controls all aspects of our aging. Our ability to resist the destructive nature of time that is constantly trying to wear down our bodies. The better our nervous system is functioning, the better our body is able to innately resist that destructive force of time and of nature. The forces of nature, be that gravity or heat or whatever that may be. Your body is constantly fighting against those forces of nature, and it's that innate wisdom within your body that allows you to resist that. And it's the free flow of that nervous system is what controls and regulates all that resistance of your body to those universal forces. Okay, and so that's why hydration is important, because it does maintain those discs in your spine, which gives you the best chance to keep the free flow of that nervous system. Okay. Obviously, regular checkups. I'm going to say regular checkups with a chiropractor I would highly recommend as you are aging, to make sure that your spine is aligned well, for two reasons. Right? One is that if your spine is aligned well, then it's less likely to degenerate in an accelerated rate. Right? Like a spine that is well aligned and is moving well is likely to wear and tear much more normally than a spine that is misaligned, that has excessive pressure in certain areas as a result of dysfunction, as a result of lack of movement. And that lack of movement really can be really detrimental. We know that the discs in our spine don't have their own blood supply, right? So the only way they get nutrients in and waste out is by movement. And so if those joints are restricted, if they are dysfunctional, if they are what we would call subluxated in chiropractic, then that's not going to allow that disc to get the right nutrients in and waste out, which is likely to allow that disc to degenerate quicker than it should be. Perhaps even weaken the annular fibers on the outside of the disc and allow it to bulge out, perhaps even rupture into a full-blown disc, bulge or rupture, impacting on the nervous system, causing really severe symptoms, as many of you may have experienced previously. And so, keeping your spine functioning well is the best way to try and help your spine age well, or to age normally, as opposed to aging in an accelerated way that happens when it's dysfunctional. And at the same time, as I mentioned earlier, keeping your spine functioning well is really important for keeping your nervous system functioning well. Your whole spinal cord is encased by that spinal column, and all of the nerves going out to your body need to get out through those intervertebral foramen. And so maintaining that integrity of that system so that it is not either directly, which is less common, pinching on that nerve, or creating aberrant neurology in other ways, like inflammation pressuring on the nerve, or altered proprioception, altered messages going back up to the brain as a result of those dysfunctional joints. There's a number of different ways that can adversely impact on your nervous system. And once again, understanding that your nervous system is what allows you to age in a healthy way. Without that nervous system, without that intelligence that exists within your body being communicated from your brain to the rest of your body, then your ability to adapt, to repair, to regenerate, when those stresses of nature, when those universal forces act upon you, like gravity, your ability to resist that and to heal from that and to thrive through that is greatly limited when there is interference to your nervous system. So once again, getting a checkup from a chiropractor to make sure that your spine and your nervous system is functioning well is definitely something that I would highly recommend if you want to age well. Okay. Sleeping well obviously is really important. Sleep hygiene is something that really has gone out the window in the last decade or two. We've seen just there's so many changes in terms of the lights that we have, the screens that we look at. This blue light that I'm looking at right now on my computer screen really is detrimental for our sleep patterns. We know coffee, we know alcohol, caffeine, sugar, eating late at night, bad sleeping postures, bad bed setups, light shining in through the window at night. There's so many different factors now that make sleep, shift work, that makes sleep much more challenging for many people than it used to be. And we know that sleep is just so important. That is when your body is adapting, repairing, and regenerating for the most part. Your body's ability to heal is really closely related to your sleep patterns. And so being mindful of your sleep hygiene, looking after your sleep hygiene, making sure you're switching off those gadgets late at night, making sure you're not eating too late at night, being mindful of when you consume coffee, being mindful of how much alcohol you consume, being mindful of how much light comes into your room. All of these factors are really important in terms of your sleep hygiene. And once again, sleep is really closely linked to the way your body ages. If you're not able to recover and to regenerate overnight, then you're just going to keep, the universe is just going to keep chipping away at you. And all of those insults that happen throughout the day, if you're not undoing those, if you're not healing from those at the night time, then they're going to add up. And one day you're going to get down, and it's going to hit you, and it might not be causing you any problems right now. It might not be causing you any symptoms right now, but it is accumulating. That stress is accumulating. And eventually you're going to see the effects of that. If you're not seeing it now, might be a good reason to go and get checked by a chiropractor or by a health practitioner to see how your body is functioning as opposed to how your body is feeling, because you will have lost function, even if you're not feeling it yet. And eventually that loss of function will get to the point where you will feel it. And sometimes by the time that happens, so much damage has been done that some of that can't be undone, right? And this is why it's really important to focus on healthy aging from the youngest age possible, right? The sooner you start thinking about it, the better chance you've got later on. The more you allow these insults to accumulate by not moving well, not eating well, stressing too much, not sleeping well, the more you allow those insults to accumulate, the more you allow that dysfunction to accumulate in the body, the more damage that gets done over time, not because you're aging, but because you're not functioning well over time, then the harder that is to heal from and to repair from and to get back on track later on, okay? So the sooner you start thinking about that, the better you're going to be, and sleeping is going to be a really big part of that. And in the same way, the final one I want to talk to you about is just sitting. I know I'm sitting right now and have been sitting for the last 37 minutes, but the average office worker in Australia sits for about 16 hours a day, and I think many of us probably sit for a similar period of time when we think about how much we sit at work, how much we sit in the car, how much we sit at home on the couch, how much we sit while we're waiting, how much we sit while we're eating meals, accumulated all that sitting. And the research suggests that sitting may in fact be worse for our bodies than smoking. Then once again, those stresses are building up. And the more those stresses build up, then the more of a negative impact they have on our bodies, and the worse we quote unquote age. We dysfunction over time as a result of those accumulated stresses that are more than our body's able to deal with, and so as a result start to accumulate over time and can be seen as aging, when reality is their dysfunction over time, accumulated stress over time, causing wear and tear on our body as a result not of our age but of our lifestyles. And so that's really the message I want you guys to get, is that you are in control to a very large degree of your lifestyle. Now, I acknowledge that there can be aspects of bad luck, and that can be genetics, that can be traumas, that can be aging processes that we just don't even know about yet. Things that can cause aging within your body and accelerated aging within your body that can be just out of our control. You might have a job that you just can't afford to leave, and you need to do it to look after the kids, or whatever that may be, or to fund your retirement, or whatever that may be, right? However, there is a lot that you can control, and hopefully I've given you some insight into that tonight. There is a lot that you can control that can help you age well, that can help you age normally, as opposed to age commonly, right? So what is common is really accelerated aging. What is normal is, I think, what we see in the blue zones, in Ikaria, in Sardinia, in Okinawa, is people aging wonderfully. People who are living rich, vibrant lives well into their 80s, their 90s, their 100s. They're still dancing, they're still gardening, they're still active, they're still mentally sharp. I remember reading stories about a particular tribe, I can't remember where it was, where you had to be 100 to be in their council, their tribe of elders that ran the whole community. And I was always struck by that, thinking not only do they have enough centenarians to do that, but they obviously have enough mental acuity to be able to run the whole tribe. Those people are aging differently, and I think they're aging normally. And I think what we see commonly is people aging quicker than they should be, accelerated aging, because people just aren't functioning as well as they should be. So hopefully tonight is an opportunity for you to start thinking about that, to start thinking about how you are functioning so that you can age, and particularly look after your spine and your nervous system so that you can age in a really healthy way. So that's everything I wanted to cover tonight. If you've got any questions for me, then make sure you let me know. If you're listening to this on replay, then the best place to ask those questions is within my Healthy Lifestyle Choices Facebook group. So just search on Facebook, Healthy Lifestyle Choices with Brett Hill, and I'd love to see you there. Otherwise, for tonight, I'm going to love you and leave you to start thinking about how you can age in a healthy way, what you can do to improve your function so that you can maintain your youthfulness and your playfulness and your curiosity for as long as possible, and so that you can live a wonderful, long, happy and healthy life. And I can see that one of the people watching is my mum, and so she's doing a wonderful job of that at the moment, and long may that continue. So hopefully there's some tips here that are going to help mum stay in our lives and be an active participant for as long as possible, and be the wonderful mum and grandmother that she is. So have a great night, and I will speak to you all soon. See ya.